What's up out there, everybody? I hope you're all fantastic today. Welcome to Movies Never Say Die. I'm Anthony DeJoya, and this is your home for 80s and 90s retro movie content. Our adventures through the lost movies of the 1990s continues. This is episode 4. I got 10 more movies, one from each year. This episode will deliver the usual bits of action and comedy, as well as some intense drama. We'll be venturing into the wilderness, the suburbs, and the Old West in this episode, so let's get into it. Kicking things off is a comedy centered on a con man who assumes the identity of a house sitter to hide out, but runs into some comical problems when the family of the homeowners pop into town for a visit in 1990's Opportunity Knocks, starring Dana Carvey, Lou Graff, Robert Loggia, and Julia Campbell, directed by Daniel Petrie. Now, I know everybody has their varied taste in comedy, but if you enjoy dumb comedy and you like the antics of Dana Carvey during his prime, then you will find fun in this movie as he plays a con man that seems ready for any situation. Many would say this is just a collection of comedic bits stitched together with a loosely threaded plot, and I would agree with that. However, I don't think that's a detriment to the overall entertainment value that Opportunity Knocks delivers. It's early 90s bit comedy slapped together with an 80s humorous plotline, and I think it works for delivering mindless entertainment. It's certainly juvenile at times, but I think it can connect to that teenager inside of you as Carvey works through his entire spectrum of comedy in a tightly paced film. The supporting cast is solid as well. I think Robert Loggia is a nice addition, but really Carvey is full throttle in this one, and his relentless delivery is a good time when you're in the mood for a lighthearted laugh or two. Next up is a gritty action movie about a cop accused of murder, and the only man who knows he's innocent is the killer who framed him in Ricochet from 1991, starring Denzel Washington, John Lithgow, Ice-T, and Kevin Pollak, from director Russell Mulcahy. I really don't feel Ricochet gets mentioned enough when talking about great action flicks from the era. You get Denzel Washington, who just absolutely takes this character and elevates it to world-class levels. Then you get John Lithgow. We all know him as the cute, cuddly grandpa, or playing the office suit now, but during his early years, Lithgow could deliver a bold, vibrant villain that was just maniacal, and his turn in this one is just absolutely perfect in my opinion. I think Ricochet is just one of those early 90s action flicks that has a down and dirty 80s vibe to it, and watching Washington and Lithgow just go at it, I think is still very entertaining all these years later for an action movie. This movie creates a really foreboding tension. The score, which essentially sounds like the Predator score, just gives this movie instant nostalgia. You get Jesse the Body Ventura, plenty of bloody violence, a top tier finale that really just thrives on practical effects, and Ricochet is just one of those movies that goes way over the top in all the ways you would want. Moving along to 1992 is a sports comedy about a con man recently released from prison who makes a bet that he feels he cannot lose in Diggstown, starring James Woods, Louis Gossett Jr., Bruce Dern, and Oliver Pratt, from director Michael Ritchie. Apparently, this was a movie that flopped at the box office, but when my friend and I caught it on late-night cable as teenagers, we absolutely loved it. Admittedly, when watching it as an adult, it's a much different movie, and I would say it's a better one. I think the chemistry really shines between Gossett and Jr. They're fantastic together. Their rapport and their banter really feels natural. I think it allows a lot of the comedic beats to land with effective laughs. Now, sure, the plot here is a bit unrealistic, but I mean, who really cares? It's plenty grounded enough to just take this fun ride of humor and boxing action that Diggstown delivers. There's no denying that Woods and Gossett Jr. carry this movie, but I think Bruce Dern is a bright spot as well. And really what makes Diggstown so much fun is that it's just an easily consumable, easily engaging film. Its characters feel harmless, and really the movie overall just has kind of a great level of self-awareness to it. It's barely over 90 minutes, so it's over and done with before you know it, and I would consider this to be a movie that has really only gotten better over time. Next up is a thriller about a kid who goes out to stay with his aunt and quickly becomes friends with his little cousin, which would usually be a normality of life. The only problem here is his cousin's a little psychopath. In 1993's The Good Son, starring Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood, from director Joseph Rubin. Now, this movie absolutely killed it at the box office, but was not really well received by critics at all. It was surely riding on the momentum of Culkin and Home Alone, but a lot of people were just not really ready to see little Kevin McAllister in full-on psycho mode. Now, I will agree with some of the complaints that the story doesn't really ride much below the surface, and it's far from a tried and true psychological thriller, but I think after all these years that The Good Son really plays as an entertaining, soft slasher horror type movie, or at least as much as it can be as being a studio film led by a couple of kids. But overall, I think The Good Son really is just nicely acted. I think both Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood are strong in their characters, and the tension between them in many scenes, I think, rivals what you could get from some adult actors. And I think with its super tight pacing and its frequent acts of mayhem, that The Good Son is still entertaining, light viewing for the horror genre. Next up is a wilderness set action thriller about a family on vacation who run into a couple fugitives, which quickly turns it into the summer vacation from hell in The River Wild from 1994, starring Meryl Streep, Kevin Bacon, David Strathairn, John C. Reilly, and directed by Curtis Hanson. This movie was another of those cable TV discoveries for me, and while The River Wild doesn't break new ground in the real-time action thriller formula, I think it does thrive on many levels. It's fast-paced, it has a very few lulls, the river action is impressively shot to really pull you out into the wilderness with these characters, and I think the tension has a nice gradual elevation before the high-energy finale kicks in. Then you get the strong performances with everyone, in particular Streep and Bacon, really making the most of these recycled character types. Both of them really do, in my opinion, go all in on these performances. You can sense they enjoy the sadistic game of cat and mouse that their characters are playing, and I think it translates nicely on screen in a very naturally engaging way. And I think where this movie also really thrives is just being able to tell a suspenseful story with highs and lows and plenty of hurdles where you can easily relate to the characters to imagine what you would do in these situations, and that's really what these movies are all about. We're stepping back into the Old West for this next movie about a gunfighter that returns to a small frontier town on the eve of a dueling tournament for revenge, and Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead from 1995, starring Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, Keith David, and many more. I'll always have a soft spot for this movie for some reason, and as a kid I did watch some westerns, but they honestly never really grabbed me. However, the over-styling of The Quick and the Dead was really appealing to me as a teenager, as much as that may pain some of the purists in the genre to hear me say. However, like Young Guns, I think this movie really plays like an action flick with a very heavy, pure western vibe to it, and it's still a very strong, entertaining watch today. The ensemble cast in this movie is like 9 or 10 names deep with familiar faces and great character actors. Stone and Hackman have a raw tension between them that I think fits the tone so well, and all of the supporting cast really elevates their characters with their presence. I always felt like this was sort of a Young Guns spin-off with a splash of blood sport tossed into the plot, and I think it's a great time. The action is intense, it's nicely placed throughout the runtime, and Stone's mission, as familiar as it may be, and with this writing, I think is more than able to seed the emotional core of the drama to make all the action mean something. And I think still 10 or even 20 years from now, The Quick and the Dead will still hold up as a great movie. Next up is a Mississippi set legal drama that follows a young lawyer who defends a black man that's accused of killing 2 white men who raped his little daughter, in Joel Schumacher's A Time to Kill from 1996, starring Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson, Sandra Bullock, Kevin Spacey, and Oliver Platt. Oh man, I remember watching this movie when it was released. I had went out on a date. I think I was maybe in my senior year. I knew the cast in this movie was all familiar. I just had no idea really what the plot was about. I had no idea how emotional emotionally hard hitting it was going to be. So it may not have been the best pick for a teen date night, but damn, this movie is just raw to the core. It can really reach in, grab your heart, and just squeeze it with ease. I remember fighting back tears when watching this movie on that date, and even to this day, A Time to Kill can really just hit the emotional notes with such a strong primal intensity. The writing, I think, is just extremely well structured. It has a lot of different subplots to tell and many layers that need to be woven in, and I think this script just knocks it out of the park. The performances are heartfelt and relatable. Everybody really brings their A game to this film, and with Schumacher's intimate direction of this just dirty and just evil plot, I think the fight for justice in this film will really enrage you. It will uplift you, and when the end credits roll, you will really feel the weight of what you have just watched. This next comedy sees a bratty rich teenager attempting to stage her own kidnapping, which naturally goes horribly wrong when the car that she's hiding in is stolen by a small-time thief in Marco Brambia's Excess Baggage from 1997, starring Alicia Silverstone, Benicio del Toro, and Christopher Walken. This is another of those just came and went comedies that may not work for everybody, but I think for those that enjoy a comedy that has a bit of a dark humor and a grimy atmosphere to it, then Excess Baggage will be a fun treat. I think the chemistry between Silverstone and Del Toro feels more than natural enough, so it's easy to have fun with these characters and the wild ride that this plot takes them on. I think the humor has moments of clever and witty laughs, and while I personally feel this movie should have leaned more into the comically sadistic side, it still lands plenty of laughs. I do think the script over-focuses on the romantic angle, but it doesn't slow the film down too much. It's just to me that these are the moments when the film gets a little bit over light and falls into some of the formula tropes, but regardless, when looking back on it, Excess Baggage is still a lighthearted comedy with splashes of fun action and a very strong, capable sense of humor that can really sweep you up when you sit down for it. Moving along, I have a little drama that follows the lives of intertwining characters living in Los Angeles, all going through differing experiences of love and different impacts on their current day lives, in William Carroll's Playing by Heart from 1998, starring Sean Connery, Gillian Anderson, Angelina Jolie, Ryan Phillippe, Dennis Quaid, Ellen Burstyn, and many more. No, I'm not gonna lie, guys, the first time I watched Playing by Heart, I was that dude sitting in his bed with a pint of ice cream and tears in his eyes. I remember I was very early in college, or maybe hadn't even started yet. I was living in my friend's dad's basement. I rented this movie from Blockbuster because I had zero weekend plans. Selection was limited. I didn't have anything else to check out, and I'm glad I didn't, because if not, I probably would have never gotten to see this movie. Now, Playing by Heart is not perfect, and when watching as an adult, it certainly does play more to the melodrama than I remembered. However, it's still a very highly compelling and a very highly engaging drama. It follows a collection of different stories that can each invest you in their own ways. The performances really give these characters a natural human quality, and getting to see how they all interconnect is intriguing to see explored. I think Playing by Heart is a movie that's really about relationships. It's about everyday grounded relationships, and with this world-class cast, each character is really in good hands, resulting in a movie that's just filled with relatable plot lines to lure you in. And next up is a highly underrated thriller about a common suburbanite who begins to suspect that his normal neighbors could be terrorists in 1999's Arlington Road, starring Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins, Joan Cusack, and Hope Davis, directed by Mark Pellington. I remember going to see Wild Wild West and walking out of the theater completely disappointed. We were strolling down the halls, and then I saw a poster for Arlington Road on the wall a few doors down. It was conveniently just about to start, so we figured, what the hell, let's step in and make sure these seats are in good shape and that everything sounds great. And this movie kicked ass. I really loved the tension that it built as Bridges relentlessly tries to prove his notion that there is something off with his seemingly normal neighbors. Tim Robbins is both unassuming and inviting, as well as very evil and sinister, and his performance and the turns he takes is perfect for what this movie needed. And really what I still enjoy about Arlington Road is how it just maneuvers a quick intro, then just a game of cat and mouse as Bridges gets little clues during the middle act. Then somewhere there is this point when Arlington Road just launches out of the gate like cinephiles heading to Barnes & Noble's on Criterion sale day, and it doesn't let up. Arlington Road does try to do a little too much in the closing act, but it's still highly satisfying. When the end credits roll, you will find yourself unclenching. And that's it for today, guys. This has been episode 4 of my Lost Movies from the 1990s series, another group of solid movies from a great decade in cinema. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies, what you thought of them. If you haven't seen them, I recommend checking them out. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys' support. Be on the lookout for episode 5 coming very soon. I also have a Halloween video around the corner, so be on the lookout for that. I hope to see you guys all back there for those videos. And until then, movies never say die.
Jack Burton and the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?